Hi kids, I'm close up like this because I don't want to have to edit the video much, kind of lazy. But I'm going to show you some soldering tips, so let me get right to it. Who knows if this is going to be useful to you, but it's my tips I've picked up, and so now they're family secrets. Here we go. So starting with these are surface mount parts. Capacitors are identified with C's. This is a 7, let's see, there's 8 pins on a side, no, there's 7. So that's a 14 pin dip. So sometimes they're in packages of 8 pins. The ones that are designated with an R are resistors. So what I'm going to show you is how to get little parts off like this simply. Some people may think it's difficult to get some of this stuff off. You need special tools. But what I like to do is just kind of get a blob of solder on there and book off. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you how quickly I can just get all these little caps off. Just put a blob of solder on your soldering tip. Take them off one by one. And then when you get them off, they just stick to your tip because of the surface tension of the solder. So I got all those off. Liquid split. So now those are all off. Now let's say I wanted to take off this part, which is actually pretty easy too. You do kind of the same technique. Just put a big blob of solder on both sides. And on this side, we're taking it off anyway, so who cares? I need my handy dandy tweezers. So that's just to kind of grab it once you get it hot enough on both sides. It'll just kind of move and move around once you get it there. There you go, see it's moving? So just don't use force. That's my other tip. Don't use force. Wait till it comes up easily. Now the other thing is you can use what's called a solder wick. And so solder wick is a copper braid. My big tip on this is never touch the braid, simply because your oils on your hands actually ruins its ability to suck up solder. The other tip is to get solder wick that has the flux built into it, so which it cleans it. So basically you can clean up this just by kind of putting it on there. Wipe it around like a broom. Get your solder all cleaned up. Dropped it. Oh, okay. It's kind of hard to talk and do this. Clean it all up, nice and clean. Now let's say I just want to put those parts back on. What I like to do is, what you should do is clean that with some solvent real quick. Okay, so I cleaned the surface here. And what I'm going to do is put solder on the one pad that I want, where I'm going to be putting this replacement capacitor on C7. Do it on the solder on the hand that has the iron, so do it on that pad, and then just kind of push the capacitor into it, or whatever part you have, and then voila, you have one side anchored to its pad. And then just come back in here and just add solder to the other side. And if you think it's a little dirty, it's too much solder, you can kind of come in here and you can kind of take some away. Boop. And then that's it. That's how you put a capacitor back on. Now I'm going to show you next is how to put the IC back on. So one thing about ICs, there's usually a pin 1, and this one has a circle on the image here. And there's also a double white line, hard to see. But that's pin 1, and that's how you identify how the chip is oriented. This is the old chip I took off. It's a little dirty. But there's a slant here, 45, on the chip. So that side goes along with this side. So whatever there's a marker on the chip, whether it's a dot or like a angle on it, then that's always going to be where pin 1 is going to be designated. And that tells you how the part is put on. So same thing with ICs. You put a little solder on one of the pads where you're going to be putting the part back in. Oops. And then take your tweezers, heat up the pad where you're going to place it, stick it in place, put it right there, and then boom, you've got it tacked in place. And now once it's tacked in place, You know, and I'm probably using too fat a solder. Oh, here's my thinner solder. So let's, or solder if you're from England. Just kind of come along and just tack each of the little feet down. And if you happen to connect 2 feet together, don't worry about it. You can kind of come back with your either the tip of your tool and actually kind of with the tension from the solder, you kind of pull it off and get it to stick to the clean tip. And you can kind of pull solder away from. Now to clean up some of the solder that might have tied 2 pins together, you can use a clean tip of your soldering tool and just kind of let the solder stick to the tip and kind of pull away any extra solder. That's kind of an easy way. Or you can come back in here with your solder wick and actually come in here and pull some away. Just got to make sure you don't pull so much away that it's no longer connected to the pad. You do want to, of course, when you putting the part back on, if there's a lot of pins, you for sure need to clean it. Make sure that it's completely flat. There's no old solder that's going to make it unlevel. So that's about the tip I have on how to get parts on and off. So here I'm going to take that part off for you. Boink. Take it off and put it on with your little tweezers. Have a good day, kids. Hope this is useful in your life someday.